Hello everyone. No matter
where you are in the world,
whether
whether
it's
it's a good afternoon or
good
good.
evening or good morning, I extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today. Welcome to the virtual session of the Bella Vista and Sydney Salesforce Developer Group. Thank you for registering and being a part of today's session. We are privileged to have Manoj Nambirajan, a Salesforce architect and MEP, here with us today. He will be sharing about unlocking the power of the security troubleshooting tools using the Salesforce product called the Security Center with a real-time demo. Before proceeding the session, let me introduce myself. I am Shaktivel Madhesh and working as a senior Salesforce developer at Tech4 Services, and also I am community group leader for the Bella Vista, Western Sydney, Australia. And I am actually available on the social channel, so feel free to reach out to me any of the time. Session, please use the chat window for any question if you have, and we can discuss during the Q&A discussion afterward. Without any further delay, I will now hand over the virtual stage to Manoj. Over to you, Manoj. Please feel free to share your screen and start your session. And
Yeah, sure.
before that, if anyone interested to share your technical knowledge to the large audience, please meet and we can conduct the session. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah.
I'm top.
Thank you, Shakti. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to provide my insights on the Salesforce Security Center product. So a warm welcome to all the trailblazers who have joined us at this hour for this session. My role is more of a Salesforce enterprise architect, and this particular product caught my eye because I feel like this Salesforce Security Center product is the future for security troubleshooting aspect, as well as a one-stop place where you can actually monitor your Salesforce security standards, your compliance or governance across all the instances. So it's a pretty cool. So I appreciate Salesforce product for giving us this avenue of troubleshooting Salesforce related security, because security these days is of prime importance, right? And you never know if any data got hacked or anybody did a malicious activity, how you can in a real time kind of measure that, as well as have some metrics to measure your governance. So without further ado, let me share my
Manoj?
screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Still, your screen is not visible, so I thought to check with you. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Sure. So I hope you can see my screen, right?
Uh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So with that in place, let's move ahead with our agenda for today. So I will be touching upon the evolution of security troubleshooting tools. We have seen many in the past decade or so, so I'll be just touching upon them before I kind of going into the security center product, its introduction and the pillars. So via these pillars, it helps us to simplify security management as a tool standpoint. It will also help you gain visibility for better insights, as well as have a view into any threat or anomalies detection. Then I'll be walking you through on the implementation steps, like how you would want to enable security center product, followed by a demo. So let's move to the evolution, right? So security troubleshooting tools. So if you look at all the tools, at least in my perspective, right, that is in our disposal, I'm starting with login history, which I think we all will be aware of. We would have seen that, which helps in monitoring your login attempt, all the users login attempt, using which browser, which application, etc., as well as whether they are coming through APA or not. All such things, we know login history kind of gives you that preview. Then moving on to view setup audit trail, which we all know. Under the setup, if you click on view setup audit trail, it actually gives you a view of what are the setup changes that you have done. Maybe if you have done any deployment or any profile changes, or if you have done any changes to session securities, and all those gets captured in the setup audit trail. Um, So that's more of monitoring the setup changes. And then transaction security policy, which has I believe Salesforce, from an approach of enhancing the tools at our disposal for monitoring and troubleshooting, or maybe defining security policies, right? Transaction security policy helps you to do that. It helps you to monitor any malicious or unauthorized events at your instance. So you can define transaction security policy at your instance and gain an in-app guidance or an alert as you define those policy. And finally, event monitoring. You would have heard about it. I think the last 2 or 3 years, event monitoring has been like a top tool which will help you to monitor all the Salesforce events. Now, the catch with all these tools with our disposal, right? Assume in a situation where you are ending up managing multiple Salesforce instances. Now, all these tools, yeah, it does help you to measure these things, but it's very instance specific. You have to log in at each instance and run these kind of tools, or make use of these tools to uh, access or monitor the activities, which is where the security center product helps us. At least that's one big advantage, is because it's like a one-stop shop. The moment you do the initial setup, try to connect all the Salesforce instances, then that's it. You just have to log in once, and it will help you to monitor security changes across all the tenants or instances. I mean, even if you look at the online documentation, also you will be kind of going through or observing the tenant word multiple times, but that by definition is nothing but a particular Salesforce instance. So you can actually connect all your related instances, and then the security center as such will help you to measure the security standards across all of them. So that's the beauty of this product. So as we move ahead, as an introduction, right, an introduction to the security center product as such. The screenshot that you see is what you will see the moment you get into the security center app. It comes up with a pretty default dashboard. Unfortunately, that's something that you cannot customize, but it's a summary. I mean, it gives you at a high level some of the core metrics that gets measured by this product. So as you see in the screenshot, you have authentication by type. So MFA, as we all know, MFA announcement, right? Salesforce as such, they are enforcing MFA across all the instances. So at least from our end, as we govern a particular instance, these kind of metrics will help you actually understand how many users or login attempts have followed SSO, how many have followed MFA and SSO, or MFA with user password combination like that. So these default metrics that you see in the screen is based on the results that the security center product is giving you for a particular instance. And there is a certain column called as change, which will give you the incremental, like what has happened since the last run. So which is where the last updated column gives you. So for example, if you log into security center as of today, so you're seeing some metrics as of today, and tomorrow if you log in again, the app refreshes the data, and then you will be seeing the incremental number in the change column. So that's what the change column kind of indicates. It can be plus or minus also, like what you see here, where for unmanaged package, some uninstallation probably happened for 2 packages. So that's where the change is -2. So these kind of metrics, it refreshes on a daily basis. So the change column as such, you will be seeing the value getting updated accordingly. And then a security center, right? So it helps you to manage the security aspects, as I mentioned earlier, and also it helps you to track any security or policy violation by internal actors. So it's three pillars are simplified security management. So it helps you boost as an admin, right? This is like a pretty good tool, admin, as well as for senior developers and admin, L3 support, maybe like those also managing incidents, as well as troubleshooting incident management. For that team also, this is a pretty good tool because it helps you to simplify the security management at a multi-org level. And as you kind of manage it, it also helps you to gain visibility for better insights. So you can visualize critical metrics like what you see in the screenshot here across all the org. And finally, it will help you to detect any threat or anomalies also. As I understand, the way this works is the event monitoring data, right? As part of the evolution, one of the tools that we saw was event monitoring. So for an org which has event monitoring also subscribe to it, which is where Salesforce, as far as this product is concerned, it makes use of that event monitoring data, and then it has an AML engine on top of it, with which it will help you to detect any threat or anomalies. So it's clubbing these two products to give you that kind of an insight. Unfortunately, for today's demo, I will not be able to show you that because the instance we have is a developer instance, and obviously it will not have much data, right? For AML to work, it needs some good sufficient data, at least 6 months of data. That's what I understand from the documentation also. So that kind of data gathering for a production and large instances, yeah, definitely this will work as you train the model and all. Obviously, the threat and anomalies detection will have some results that will encourage you to troubleshoot further. So with that, I'm just pausing here. So what I will do is I'll kind of open one of my instance. Just a second. Yeah. Do you see my Salesforce screen?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So as you go to setup, right? I go to app launcher, and if I search for security center, it comes in. Now there are a couple of permissions that is required for you to get this view. I'll be touching upon that later. But from the app launcher, right, if you select security center product, then this is the page that you will be seeing. So like I mentioned earlier, it actually comes up with its own default metrics. So there are a lot, like it's broken down by authentication by type, configuration metrics, permissions, like any admin permissions or anything that you have accidentally given to anyone, those gets captured. But it's for this instance only, the instance that you're seeing where I have logged in. So this matrix is based on that instance only, as well as any threat detection. So as you look at this app, there are two aspects to it. One is this is an overview dashboard which you will land by default, but there are a lot of options that you see on the left side as well as on the right hand side. So if we touch upon at a high level, if you just open authentication, right, and if I click on MFA username and password, so this is the page which actually tells you what is the MFA adoption. Every org will have its own MFA adoption, right? So what is the MFA adherence or governance you have for a particular org? How many users have logged in, and what is the trend for a certain day? So authentication as such, it actually covers for all different types of login, even the OAuth or MFA username password combination is what you will see. And then at the bottom, you can actually run your figure based on a certain date also, certain date range and all. You can just run it and it will just give you the measure. And you can also run it based on tools per day or totals per tenant also. If you have multiple tenants connected, then those related metrics will also be shown here. So if you move on to configuration, um, then it actually gives you a place where you can actually look at, for example, if I select login IP ranges, for example, and I can select for a certain particular date, maybe from maybe it's data is not, but at least it gives you multiple matrices, right? So you can actually measure on connected apps, login IP ranges is there, and then you also have a security health check. So security health check as such, there is a trend which is being followed. Like for every org, when you run the security health check, the score can be seen here. So here, the score that we have for this org is 74. So when you open and click on it, as you look at this health check score, right, it actually divides the overall categories that you have, like medium, critical, and complaint into three divisions. So that's also another metrics that you see here. And if I select on a certain particular date, then you see like I have run like the security health check on this particular date for all the instances, and this is a matrix across all the tenants also. So if I select this overall health check score for this particular org, then it opens up this page. So overall org health check score is what you see over here. So we have like three critical where the clickjack protection or HTTP attribute is not yet enabled. So that's the under the critical radar which you have to take action immediately. As well as there is one where you have an invalid login attempt attempted by one of the users. So that is under the warning category. And as far as this org is concerned, it also helps you give like what all security measures we are compliant with under the session settings and all, and what aspects come under the medium also, what are critical and warning under the medium risk security settings. So with this app you can also have an overview of how your health check score is for a particular instance, and also across the tenant also. So this is the observation for the child org too, like how they are behaving. One of them is compliant, and you can draw comparisons across the tenant also. So that's one beauty with this security center product. And you can also define your own health check baselines. So how the baseline have been for a past few days and all. And there is one more aspect here is, you can also, if I go to the particular date, right? Um, you can also download the metrics and also filter for a particular tenant. Like if I put a filter, right, you can add a filter and you can measure like for which particular tenant ID you want to consider. Because right now the health check score is for today's date for this particular instance. But if you want to move around a certain particular tenant, then you can add those filter and you can run your metrics accordingly. You click the apply button and it will work and show you the metrics accordingly. And you can also run on transaction security policies. If you have defined or deployed to anything, then that can also be seen. So that's what the configuration section kind of covers. And then if you move under the permissions, this is a place where all the core admin related permissions are actually visible. So this will actually help you kind of measure like if any admin has given to a non-admin user any key admin permissions, anybody has accidentally done that, then those things can be measured here. How many users are having a certain particular permissions, etc. Those can be accessed over here. And given a situation where if you look at the Salesforce product as such, there has been a lot of renaming of products, right? And also there is a future vision of Salesforce probably promoting more permission sets in compared to profile. So if a certain profile gets retired and all, then this can be one of the places where you would know like for a certain permission which all permission is enabled for which permissions and profiles across multiple instances and all. So those kind of insights, this particular tool will definitely benefit you. I think that that's something we all would end up doing as every org is kind of preparing for us to move ourselves into a permission set mode, right? I mean, that's one of the announcements we have heard recently. So you can leverage for that particular use case for security center product. And then as we come down, there's another section called as user, where you can also measure like how many users are frozen, inactive, never logged in, etc. And finally, monitoring is a place where you can actually look at the threat detection. So this actually gives you like if there are any anomalies across all the tenants, and you can look at the scores. So as you log into a certain instance, on the left side, these are the multiple options that you see, wherein you can measure those particular metrics, gain insights, and take cautious decision accordingly. So you would have seen like tenants being connected, and I think earlier when we saw the health check score, we were able to go through the metrics for all the connected tenants, right? So how do we do that? So which is where this tab connected tenants come into place. So I have already connected uh, three orgs among themselves. I have defined like one is parent and the remaining two are child. The way you do is by clicking the button. Uh, I won't click it because it will log me out. But ideally, when you click on either of this button, like any production tenant or sandbox tenant, it will actually navigate you to the respective login page. So you have to enter the credential, and then automatically you will get a pop-up where you do you want to connect the security center or not. The moment you click yes, then the instances get connected automatically. The only gotcha over here is you have to ensure that the security center is enabled first for all these instances before you try to connect them. Otherwise, the connectivity will not happen. So that's one catch. Probably you have to, as a prerequisite, right? You have to enable the instances with the required permission, so that you can see security center from the app center, and then you can then determine which instance is your production and which instance is your child dog, as far as the tenant connection is concerned. So after you connect the tenant, then you can run the required metrics accordingly. And then alert settings is a place where you can actually define your alert. So you can actually define any kind of alert you want. Like if I click a new alert, for an example, right, you can actually define your alert name. Then for which metric you want to define the alert is the question. So there are multiple metrics you can run for. Like there are some metrics which are corely focused on MFA. There are some more from an authentication aspect. So it starts with the authentication metrics to begin with, and then you move on to encryption policies, login IP ranges definition, anybody who has installed any managed packages or any uninstallation that has happened, stuffs like that. Security health check, you can define a metric for that. So whatever we saw on the left pane earlier, right, in the overview, you had authentication, configuration, permission, etc. All of them are available here for you to define as a metric. And you can also define metric for API anomaly and credential stuffing also. So once the AI starts to behave, right, then you can easily define a metrics and you can define a value accordingly. So for users with vOL data permission, for example, then you can define an operator. Like for example, for a given use case, if you want to see like how many users in an org got mass assigned for a certain permission, then this kind of an alert setting can immediately give you an in-app alert or an email like, okay, for a particular instance, a user has mass assigned a certain admin permission to multiple users. So immediately we'll be getting alert, and you can reach out to that users to understand the reason behind such an activity has happened. And as we scroll down, yeah, you can also define for which tenant a particular policy has to be applied. It can be for parent tenant or child tenant, based on the connectivity you have done, and that will be applicable. And then you can save and activate. Alert setting is a place where you can actually define near real time, or yeah, I think it should be a real time alert if a particular incident has happened. And then security policy is also a place where it will help you to deploy security policies. So for example, here is one place where IP range deployment is something that you can also deploy, and other transaction security policies also you can define. So for example, if you want to define a health check baseline and deploy that to a particular org, then this is a place where you can instantly do the deployment. Earlier, prior to this product introduction, right, whenever we want to define our own health check baseline for a particular org, or if you want to define a session settings for a particular org, a trusted IP range, you actually have to go to a setup and then do the deployment. There was no metadata availability for you to do this kind of automatic deployment. But now with the security policy in place, you can easily actually do this kind of deployment on the fly. If I check trusted IP range, for example, and then I click next, then you can just define the name. You can define for which IP range you are trying to deploy. Then select the tenant and go with the deployment. Instantly, the deployment will happen. So that's the beauty of this particular app. Also, it has that deployment capability that you can do, which in the past days you would be kind of defining it manually and not via metadata also. So with this overview in place, let's just jump back to our slide. Yeah, do you see my deck now? Hello?
Yes, Manish.
Yes, yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So as we touched upon earlier, simplify security management, right? So it's a screenshot of how that permission page would look. So it actually gives you like what is a trend of modify all data permission or view all data permission, any other kind of admin permission over the particular past n number of days. The trend can be seen over here. So it like we saw earlier in the demo, the end-to-end visualization, giving you a security-centric operation view of across all the tenant and all, you can actually measure, eliminate any security blind spot, which is where it actually gives a single pane of glass view to view your security permission assignment across multiple tenant. Because earlier, if you're just managing one org, or probably if you are part of a team multiple managing multiple Salesforce org, prior to this product, you will be just focusing on one instance and measuring the product, and maybe you will be kind of navigating across other instances individually and measuring it. So you would never know if anybody has accidentally done an activity or not, which is something that we can easily overcome with the security center app. And with this app, if we use it to our benefit, then it can actually help you to uh, uh, improve your security posture of all the org, as well as understand if you are actually compliant to a certain goal, like MFA, for example, right? I think the way MFA measurement happens from Salesforce, you probably have to meet a certain threshold, maybe 95 or 99. I'm not sure what that number is, but it could be 90 also. I could be wrong, but there is a certain threshold. Once your org crosses the threshold, then only your org is seen as compliant. So those kind of compliance measurement is also something you can actually measure using this particular product. And another thing is, yeah, gain visibility for better insights. So any core admin permissions or anybody who has accidentally uninstalled a package or installed a managed package, right? So that sometimes we would see. I mean, we might have seen instances wherein we might be in a certain trial health playground trying to install a package for working on a super badge or a module, but there is every chance like you would have accidentally installed a package at your production org also. It's bound to happen, and that's something you might not have overseen it. But this is a tool where it will help you to catch those accidental activities also. So, and that will give you gain better insights as well. So from a better insights, one of the few advantages is, yeah, the login mechanism, the MFA one that I touched upon earlier, because that's the hot topic these days, right? And Salesforce is slowly enforcing MFA for all the instances through this year and maybe next year also. So the login mechanism monitoring is one thing that you can look at. Then view configuration metrics, any accidental configuration or anybody who gained a certain permission that can be monitored, any malicious installation of packages, monitoring your security health check score, as well as track permission changes or suspicious behavior, through which you can gain those insights across multiple tenant. So that's what this product will help to do. As well as the threat and anomalies detection, right? So surface unknown threat. This is something, I mean, if your org is big and has sufficient data, then this feature will really help you. Sometimes you would never know who has a certain API access, right? There can be multiple actors who leverage those API. So hacking and session hijacking, those stuffs do get caught, and yeah, using this product you can actually get real-time alerts accordingly. So investigating certain threats or monitoring threat trends over a time. So right now the threat and anomaly detection, the type of anomalies that Salesforce supports are API anomaly, report anomaly. For example, if there is a person who has run a report and is ending up downloading huge volume of data, that's something that you can easily catch using this product, if anybody has done such an activity or not. Session hijacking and credential stuffing are the other metrics that it actually detects using this feature. And as per this screenshot, right? Once you have enough metrics, so this is one sample which I've taken from the online documentation also. So there's a graph of a trend, like what all event kind of got captured for a certain particular day. And if you look at this instance, you have tenant ID, the threat type, which are these four items, right? The threat type and event identifier. So which particular event? So the moment you click on that, then the details of the event is what you will see here, like which date it happened. For example, if any hijacking happened for a certain IP address, I mean via a certain IP address, then those details gets captured when you click on the event identifier. Then the respective event date, and if you want to apply a particular filter and run through a certain tenant, then that's also possible. So this is how a typical that threat and anomaly monitoring section, right? That metrics would look typically like this, and it will help you to measure this kind of API anomaly. So with this in place, right, I will now switch to the org wherein I'll probably show a couple of real-time deployments, like how that happens. So let me switch to the org. 1 second. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen, right? Before we do the deployment, right, I'll just touch upon those permissions, like what are the key permissions that is required for you to first enable the security center. So if we go to setup, right, and if you look at the profile, normally by right, sysadmins or anybody with sysadmin or near equivalent sysadmin profile is where the security center app will ideally get enabled, but you can actually enable it for other user personas also. Whoever you see it ideal to have this, then you can have that. So one of the aspect which I actually observed is if you go to that profile, right, the two key permissions that we need to have security center enabled is manage security center. Oh, um, yeah, um, I'll just go with yeah. Now the thing is, it's one of the learning for me was when I tried to explore this product, right? For all the standard profiles, this permission is grayed out. You can't enable it, so which means at least at the profile level, it is kind of grayed out. So it's kind of pushes you to think about a permission set creation where you can add the required permissions required to enable security center at a certain instance. So I actually have created the permission set already. So that's why I'm able to see those, see the security center product from the app center. So there are actually two permissions that is required for you to activate security center. So one is the manage security center, which we saw at the profile level. The other security center permission will be,
Sorry, Manoj. I think we
yeah.
can see only your security policy screen.
Oh, is it? Oh, security. Oh God, let me reshare 1 second. Okay, you are able to see the security policy screen now, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Thanks for catching me. Uh, do you see the setup page now?
No.
Um, okay. How about now?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, sorry. But anyway, as I mentioned earlier, right? Let me maybe jump on to that profile quickly to understand. Uh, Probably show you like what's that issue is. But it's by design. That's what I understand. So if I search for manage security center, right, it's actually grayed out. You can't enable when I click edit. But rather, I had a permission set created, which I had myself assigned to it. So there are two permissions that will be required. So one is a manage security center permission, and the other one is view security center permission. So those two permissions, then you can actually see the security center from the app and take it forward. Now let's go back to the app, right? I'm actually showing you the security policy page. Now this is the IP range which I have already created. So I have had this IP range policy created. So there is a particular IP range which I have defined. And if you look at this, there are three tabs, right? So this is the detail of the policy I have created. The tenants to which it got deployed is this child org. And what is the deployment result also we see here. And then the history of this, when was the policy created and by who. So these details you will see. Now what I will do is I'll try to deploy this in another tenant. So let me um, go to this detail first. I'll click edit. Yeah. So you click edit. Now what I'm going to do is I'll deploy this particular policy for this instance. So this instance doesn't have that IP range defined. Uh, or maybe let me do one thing. I'll log out of this instance. I'll show you like you don't have that over there before we come here. Mm, this is a child org. Okay, if we go to network, yeah, it's empty, right? There's nothing defined here. So I will log out of this instance now. Now let's try to deploy this to that org. So I'm refreshing this. 1 second. Okay. So you click edit. I go here. Then this is a policy. I want this to be deployed over here. And then we click save and deploy. So IP range deployment was updated. So let's look at the tenant now, just to first understand where. So as of this time, the
I think,
deployment has already happened.
yeah, I think
Sorry.
we are seeing that login screen only, not the, yeah, now
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah. So now after I added that, right, I added the org. So the deployment has happened. So what typically I did was I click edit and I added that tab. So child org 2 is the second tenant that we had. So I have added that. I click save and deploy and the deployment has happened. So one of the indication like the deployment happened is this tenant connection proves like the deployment happened. And if you go to the deployments also, the deployment history confirms that the deployment has happened today. And there is a yeah, deployment has happened today. So this in a way you just go to setup add. By this page it indicates like the deployment has happened. So now let's go to the login page and see. I hope you can see my login page, right? So I'm getting into the child org where we just did the deployment. So then I go to network, network access. Hoping we will be able to see this. Yeah, so it got deployed. So that's how instant it is. It easily does the deployment. So on one end, we were able to track the deployment from the page we initiated the deployment. And here, when you log in, it got auto deployed automatically. So now, if I just go back to our instance, right? So the deployment kind of succeeded. Now let's kind of track this from the metric standpoint. So if I go to dashboard, right? Okay, so if I go to dashboard and we actually did a deployment on login IP, trusted IP ranges, right? We did a trusted IP range deployment. So now I ideally, it shows a spike, right? Like a deployment actually had happened. Now, one thing is for today, it hasn't captured it because ideally for security center, it refreshes once a day. But the tool also gives you an opportunity to click on this update data button. So if you click on this, uh, it kind of runs itself like one out of three tenants reporting. So it's kind of connecting through all the tenants. And then finally, when the graph gets updated, you will be seeing a spike or a updated graph over here. It will take 1 or 2 minutes. So by the time this runs, right, let's go to one more aspect. So we have alerts settings here, right? So here is one of the alert which I created. You have an in-app uh, alert that I created. So the tenants to which got connected is also, I have it. Now, what we can also do is, I hope this would work. Once you click edit, right, you can also deploy or make this alert applicable for as many orgs you want. So if you want to have this particular alert deployed to another org, you can have that and activate this alert. So this is how you activate alert settings for particular tenant. But security policies as such, it's more of a deployment. You end up deploying it for the tenant. Alert setting is more of you define the alert and you can activate it across a multiple tenant. So and you can also kind of edit the alert also, like if you want to make it an email, email is also possible. So you can actually define for which email the alert has to be thrown and the email delivery will happen. Okay. uh, so now let's go back to the dashboard again. I hope the refresh would have happened by now. No, I think it's trusted IP ranges. Yeah, so you saw the spike, right? So it actually ran it, and now it can see like an activity actually happened on 9th where we did the deployment. So these are the different ways by which I'm just touching on places where it's pretty easy to track, but all the metrics that you see on the left side, you can actually do something similar and track the metrics accordingly, and also develop your in-app alert or email delivery accordingly. So with that in place, I'm now going to switch back to our deck. Um, okay, so implementation steps, right? So as we move forward with the implementation steps, these two are the core permissions by which you can actually see the security center app available in the app center. And then you also have to take a decision as which tenant is your parent or child. So there is one catch or guidance here. Like if you are having one production org, if you select one production org as your parent tenant, then you can select other production org as a child tenant for this parent tenant as well as a sandbox org also. So which means if there is one production org, it can have both other production org as well as the sandbox org within that production instance as child tenant for a parent production tenant. But for the sandbox, it works in a reverse way, because since you have all the sandboxes coming under a single production tenant, the sandboxes can only connect among themselves under a certain production instance. It can't go to the sandboxes for another production instance. That connectivity is not possible. So you just have to be careful how you are connecting the parent and child tenant, or defining the parent and child tenant. And then as I showed earlier, deploying the security policies is made much easier with this tool. The trusted IP range deployment is what we saw in the demo earlier, but you can also do a similar thing for password configuration, session settings, like the session timeout definition, etc. You can also define and do the deployment accordingly, as well as the health check baseline. And another thing that we have is how the security center product refreshes, right? So it refreshes data once per day, but you can also make use of that update data click that I showed earlier. You can also click on that to get a real-time update. If at all you want to get an updated metrics, you can click on that button. And security center needs at least 6 months of data. This is more related to that AML engine for the threat and anomaly detection, right? So for that to happen, it needs at least that 6 months of data. So at a minimum, if you have that, then the threat anomaly detection will work accordingly. And you can also have your own alert settings defined based on the threat anomaly detection. And the feature availability, it is available for enterprise, performance, developer, and unlimited editions. Uh, I understand there is a pricing link to it. I don't have the pricing details, but for respective org, yeah, you can maybe reach out to your account executive and understand what it takes to enable it. So with that in place, yeah, I conclude my session.
Yeah, that's great. In the Q&A wise, I can see there are few Q&A. Manoj,
Oh, okay.
are you able to see that in the chat window?
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Oh dear. Okay. It will consider which contain. I understand. Yeah, any org with or without. I right now Salesforce org, the Hyperforce as such, I understand. I could be wrong here, but I understand it's more of the backend infrastructure migration. So org with or without Hyperforce. From the metric standpoint, it's more of a particular instance. So once the instance is connected and you can do, it should be working. But anyway, yeah, I'll get that confirmed. As I understand, it should be possible, but I'll get that confirmed. What permission sets should the user have? Yeah, ideally not a permission set, but those two permissions: manage security center and view security center page. I mean, those two are the critical permissions. And as we saw in the demo, right, it becomes pretty difficult to define for you at the standard profile level. For custom profile, you can add, but ideally defining at the permission set level and assigning would be the way forward. That makes the app exposed. And do we need to buy separate license? I understand it's more coming as an add-on. That's what I understand. You would gain more benefit if you also have event monitoring available for you. Because the AML piece, the threat detection and all, it will only start to work and give you those insights because it relies based on the event monitoring data. If you don't have, then that particular feature is something that you may not be able to tap onto. But without event, but I think, yeah, as I understand, this actually trust on event monitoring data. The login metrics, maybe it will still work with the security center app, but without event monitoring, the difficulty will be on those threat and anomaly detection. You will not be able to make use of that. So you may not need the Salesforce Shield totally, um, but it's nice to have because the transaction security policy, that's under the Salesforce Shield, right? Event monitoring is also under the Salesforce Shield. So ideally, that would be a nice combination. Like you have Salesforce Shield with event monitoring, transaction security policy, and then you leverage that as and when the policies fire, and as and when the shield becomes effective, you can run those metrics by using the Salesforce Security Center. So as this feature is kind of exposed, it's kind of trying to connect those three dots so that you can take advantage of this feature.
Yeah, that's cool. I think there is no further question. Guys, if you have any question, feel free to reach out Manoj. He will be actively available in social channel as well. In that note, we can wrap it up. Okay. Thank you once again, Manoj, for sharing such an informative session. You covered most security troubleshooting tools in each terms of the security center with a real-time demo. I think this will undoubtedly helpful to everyone. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Once again, thank you and cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Shakti, for giving me the opportunity, and hope this session is useful for all. Let me know if you have any questions and all. I'll try to answer. You can reach me in the social media channels also. And thanks much for joining.
Yeah, thanks much. And thank you all once again.